What's up, everyone? This is David, aka Reverse Long, and today I'm back again with Justin Robertson. Justin runs the But Would Ya crypto, NFT, metaverse, just all type macro, even just all types of great discussions, community. And that's what he's the one that he taught me most of my early crypto stuff. And he's even recently we did a podcast where I transferred all my Bitcoin into cold storage, which is really helpful because if I need to do that again, I'll just refer back to that 1 hour episode where we did it step by step. But Justin's also we've also done macro recently. So Justin's really good to keep in contact with all this the latest stuff that's going on overall with crypto, macro, what the Fed is doing, and conversations around the Fed. So yeah, I'm happy to have Justin back on. We're always great talking with him. So what's up, Justin? How's it going?
My guy, what's up, man? David, I appreciate you allowing me to come back onto your platform. You've been growing like rapidly, like everywhere I'm it's the friendly bear. I've actually, like David said, we've been on a few episodes previously, and I've had people DM me saying, thank you for coming on with David, and or when you came on my channel. I love when the friendly bear comes on. So very appreciative always to be speaking with you. And yeah, man, that time is coming again. We got the next Fed meeting coming up here, November 4th, I think. So right around the corner. And as you can see with the last few Fed meetings, that's caused a lot of volatility in the market. So figured just be a good time to check in, kind of see where our heads at, and yeah, go from there.
So do you remember the last time? What was going on with the Fed when we last spoke? Do you remember?
Yeah, so I believe the last time we spoke, the Fed's still seeming pretty hawkish. There was light rumblings in the background about a pivot. And I have a lot of beginners on my channel, and I was a beginner for a long time, right? So we're all learning together. So just kind of give the audience out there. So Fed pivot, meaning that they're going to change their stance on policy. As right now, the Fed has been raising interest rates because of inflation, as I'm sure everyone knows and sees in their gas tanks and their price of milk and bread. So a Fed pivot, meaning that they're either going to stop raising interest rates or even start reducing the interest rates. And that is obviously a bullish or dovish sign for the markets. And that usually causes markets to pump up a little bit in price. So the last time we were speaking, there were slight tremblings of that. Those slight tremblings, I would definitely would say have grown more to a rumble. And we'll see if that rumble turns into an all-out yell with the next few days leading up to the meeting.
So when you mean by dovish, it's like not exactly super bullish. Dovish is like kind of like it's not
Yes.
negative. It's like floating a little bit above the it's staying
Well,
afloat barely.
yeah, so to speak, right? So when you think bullish, you think of a bull just going in and breaking things, and it's going straight to the top, right? When you're in a bull market, things are just pumping 10%, 15% left and right out of nowhere. Dovish. So the terms dovish and hawkish refer to more so the Fed's stance on policy, right? So when the Fed is hawkish, that means that they are kind of looking to swoop in and tear down the what's currently going in the markets, right? They're hawkish. It's a negative connotation. And then when you hear the Feds talk dovish, that means that, oh, they're easing up. Think of like the magician letting the white doves out of his hands, right? Oh, everything is okay. It's like da 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 da. It's a beautiful day, right? So we always like, obviously, maybe not you so much because we all know David is the friendly bear. So he's always looking for the hawkish sentiment. But as I was just saying previously, getting into learning a lot more about macro and trying to go from that beginner stage to more intermediate, advanced. One of the things I started picking up was reading the Fed minutes. So usually what happens is when the Feds have their meeting, so say the Fed comes out and has a meeting on November 4th, the minutes are recorded. And what minutes mean is that every word that is said is like transcribed, in a document, right? So just think if they had closed captions on while you watch the meeting, that's what you get to read in the minutes report. And so when you have that minutes report, you can read through and see the exact words used by each member of the Fed. And then you can tell the sentiment. So that's like the game within the game, or when they tell you to read in between the lines, like that's one of the things that they're speaking about. So during one of the last excuse me, during one of the last Fed meetings, Jerome Powell was extremely hawkish because he kept saying fear. He kept using the word fear, and that's an extreme hawkish word. And so people are now saying that maybe the Fed finally is going to do a slight pivot. The first estimates were that the Fed was going to raise 75%. And now there are actually about 25% of people that think the Fed may only raise 50 basis points instead of 75 basis points. So, sorry, I misspoke there. So, just to be clear, the Fed is supposed to raise 75 basis points. That was the thought process. But more and more recently, there has been about 25% of voters who now think the Fed will only raise 50 basis points. And that would be very dovish for the market.
I see. So do the midterms have anything to do with this? Like because midterms are coming up and yeah, so how does that work?
That's a great question. That's like there's school of thoughts and like obviously not getting too political here, just saying what I've been seeing in the markets, right? So what you see in the markets is you have a few people out of Biden's campaign, Biden's side, that are basically saying, the Fed is going to destroy the markets. The Fed is trying to break the markets. The Fed is going to tear down. The Fed is going to cause us to go into a recession. I mean, honestly, if you go back and you just look at Joe Biden's Twitter, you can see him saying these things like right now. One of his last few tweets, as I pull it up right here. Republican leaders make clear that they're extended the reckless Trump tax cuts, allow wealthy companies to go back to paying nothing in taxes, and repeal lower prescription drug costs, costing the federal government billions. So he's trying to put out a new tax plan and change their tax plan. And I'm sorry, I read the entire wrong tweet there. So let me stop doing that before I get lost here. But the overall, yes, politics play a part. The midterms coming up. Biden obviously would like the markets to be in a more of a euphoric, dovish sentiment going into voting, because if you want someone to vote for you, it always helps when they have a little bit more money in their pockets. When you want someone to vote for you and, all their cost of living has been raised, rent around the country is about 2,000 nationally, cost of living is just up in general. That doesn't put the greatest taste in their mouth when they go to those voting polls. So
Yeah,
they do say that there's a struggle pulling on both sides.
I see. So as far as like the interest rates and all that going up, because I mean, common sense kind of tells you it needs to go up, but like, so they're just fighting. What's their like their explanation or whatever for like not doing that? So
Yeah,
just
so that's like what makes it hard, right? So you have like literally on the left, you have the left side saying that the Fed is going to break the economy by continuing to raise interest rates. But at the same time, if you don't raise interest rates, then inflation will continue to go out of control. So they're trying to play a balancing act. And on the right-hand side, um, from the Republicans, they're kind of sitting back, and I wouldn't say smiling, but they're they're more in a win-win situation, right? Because obviously im- the Republicans are heavily invested into the stock market, and the Republicans usually give more of tax breaks to policy when they're in control. So with that being said, Republicans don't necessarily want to see interest rates or inflation continue to go up. So they don't want to see interest rates to be turned around. But at the same time, if they do get turned around, then their portfolios get a big gain in that as well. So again, it's a tough balancing act to see, what can we do outside of that, right? What is the answer if we don't raise interest rates? What is the answer to inflation? So basically, what we're looking for right now is to see if something breaks in the market. I was just watching the good brother Elio trades, and he gave a few key things to watch for. And one of those things is seeing if there's a change in government policy, which again, this would be the reverse from if the Fed doesn't raise 75 basis points and they only raise 50, expect markets to get a big bounce here. But also, I I'm not too interested in buying bonds. I always thought bonds were, kind of more of a boring asset class. But bonds right now, the yield on bonds is, I think, at like 40%, something
or
ridiculous.
yeah, wait. I heard someone say when I was in a conference in Miami, a trading conference, and we were talking about bonds as like collateral for like to enable to to short sell more.
Yeah.
So and they were saying bonds are like 4% or something like that, some government bonds.
Yeah, so I think that's exactly right. So interest rates for homes last year were about 2.3%, and you can get bonds, the interest rate on bonds is at 4%. So for the people that don't know, again, bonds is basically like an IOU. So say that I wanted to build a new apartment complex, and so I was selling bonds, and David gave me 100,000. He bought $100,000 worth of bonds from me. Well, David is saying that, hey, when this bond gets redeemed in 5 years, 10 years, right? There's a time frame for bonds. So in 10 years, you're gonna owe me the $100,000 that I gave you plus 4% interest, and that's like the IOU, aka the bond that I would sell to David, and I would be able to pay David back hopefully by building that apartment building and collecting money to pay David back, right? So usually governments sell bonds. That's how they raise money. So governments right now are giving you 4% on bonds. So technically, if you would have bought a house and that house cost you 2.5%, and now you're getting 4% on bonds, that return in bonds would basically be paying for your mortgage, which is is pretty crazy at the time.
Yeah, this stuff needs to be taught in schools, man. Like why did I learn about bonds when in my 30s? You know what I mean? Or like why, you know what I'm saying? And the same with you. I'm pretty sure this is like past
Oh
couple of
yeah,
years you learned all this stuff. So and
yeah.
this
This
stuff
is
needs to be
brand new.
talked about more, man. It's just I always whenever this topic comes up, I'm like, why, the first reaction I get is like, man, how come I didn't know this before, man? What a shame. And it's not my fault. It's not your fault. This is just like the environment and the school, like it's focused on the wrong stuff, you know?
Yeah, they put things in front of us that like don't always transition to the real world, right? Like you can't sometimes it's much more difficult to live a happy life and find like your meaning and purpose when you're always worried about something, like you have that black cloud over your head, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
you have school debt, or you're worried about how you're going to pay, your pay your apartment bill, pay your light bill, whatever it is. You just have when you have those financial insecurities like weighing over you, it's like a tough life to live. And then once you finally get to a position where maybe you aren't financially like free yet, but you're financially stable, where you
Now your
have a
mind,
game plan,
yeah,
you're
now
tech.
you're open to that, and you can understand it, and now it becomes like a fun, in a way to look into
Yeah.
it. So
It becomes like I don't want to say life is a game, right? Because life is precious. I'm not saying it's a game, but financially speaking, there are terms. If you look at life as a game from a financial sense, then you want to understand how to game the system, right? That's
yeah.
by using the tax code to your benefit. That's by like vertically integrating your life into business, right? So if I already like crypto so much, like why not get a job in crypto, right? If you love computer science, why not get a job in computer science, right? So you vertically integrate those things, so that way it's like, oh, I'm doing something I love and care about. So you have all this extra free time in your head to actually think and take in and have new ideas and understand things better. And then once you start understanding things better, you're like, oh, wait, I can play this game. Like, hold on, let me write some things down, take a couple notes over here. So
Man, great explanation, and especially that the way you broke down bonds. I might have to make a clip out of that. So seriously, that was a good explanation. So now you mentioned crypto and getting into the crypto space. So how is crypto these days? So what's the status of what's going on? I see Bitcoin hanging around 19,000, it seems like for 3 months already or something like that. What's your
yeah,
thoughts on crypto right now?
yeah, this consolidation phase for Bitcoin has been like, just dragging along and dragging along. And I use Coinbase as a centralized exchange to onboard and offboard my crypto, or another term, on ramp and off ramp my crypto. So as most people know, right, when you want to buy crypto, it can be challenging getting it on and getting off from fiat to crypto. So with Coinbase, you're able to, and this is not an ad, this is just something that I use, but you're able to use direct deposit. So you can get X% direct deposited into your Coinbase account. You can leave it in there at the end of the month, take whatever you have, and then transfer it to your cold storage ledger, right? Your cold storage wallet, like David was speaking about earlier. So that's what I like to do. And so for me, this has been a great time, right? Because I've been able to, for 3 months straight, just every 2 weeks, buy crypto, buy Bitcoin at 19K, buy Bitcoin at 19K, buy Bitcoin at 19K, and it's an accumulation phase. So as Bitcoin accumulates around 20K, yes, we could definitely see much lower. I'm not saying that, and definitely not telling anyone to buy right at this time if they don't feel comfortable. But for me and my game plan, my outlook is closer to 2030, right? And I definitely believe by Bitcoin 2030, the price will be much higher than $19,000. So when you just think of it that way, it's like, this is, there's no reason for me not to be buying. So I have a small portfolio where I just dollar cost average, which is the exact situation I just explained. And I'm loving it because, again, when it's sitting at this prices, I see this as consolidation. You could sit here for another 6 months and, that's just more of an opportunity to buy. But specifically, like when I look at the charts and I think about the macro situation that we just spoke about, and how the Fed, the sentiment is starting to seem like a few dovish signals are coming out. And I'm on crypto Twitter a lot, and the sentiment on Twitter is that we're going to go much, much lower. $3,000, $5,000 Bitcoin is coming. Like, sell everything. You're an idiot if you don't think Bitcoin's going to 10K. And I'm not saying these people are wrong, but what I'm saying is usually when you hear the sentiment so heavy and the voice is so loud,
Yeah.
max pain occurs, right? So like the max pain is what's going to cause, what's the worst possible outcome for the most amount of participants. And if everyone's saying short, it's going down, it's going down, it's going down, you get a short squeeze. And let's say we get that short squeeze and we see the Fed only raise those 50 basis points, then we could see a huge rally, and that's a huge volatility day that I definitely want to be in the market. So I'm looking at it as right now, I'm just dollar cost averaging. I actually just wrote my latest article on Substack. If you guys want to check that out, you can just go to search Substack, but would you? And in that article, I was talking about right now is the time to plant your flag in crypto projects. Like, it's the bear market. This is when you should be researching. This is when you should be finding out about the projects that no one's really talking about. So that way, in 6 to 12 months, when the market does turn around, you're ready to go, right? We were talking about having the mindset to be ready, but now we also have to do the work to be ready. So that's really what I'm looking out for. I'm looking to see the reaction we get around the Fed and see if any pivot is coming soon. On the short-term side, that pivot could give us a nice bump up to anywhere 25, 27, possibly 30K. And then at the end of Q4, heading into the end of Q4, I think we do probably come down and at least retest 20K. If not, make new lower lows around 15K. But like I said, for me, I think it makes sense to buy now. It makes sense to dollar cost average because when you look at it in a longer term aspect, I don't think crypto is going anywhere. We've seen adoption come in from so many different places. And even just recently, I mean, I know you see me on Instagram all the time posting like, oh, Bitcoin's being accepted here. Oh, these people are working with Polygon. Oh, XYZ is now the biggest exchange. So the adoption is coming. And on our last talk, we also spoke about why we think Bitcoin is more correlated to the stock market and why it's not really performing as like a hedge, as a lot of people were saying. And to that point, I said a lot of people are just trading it like a tech stock and they're trading it like an asset and they're not using it for its intended purpose. And now when you see global economies start to crumble and global currencies start to really take a dive, example, the British pound, example, the Japanese yen, you see, if you look at where the inflow of money coming into Bitcoin is, it's in these other countries. It's outside of the United States. So people outside of the United States are starting to see Bitcoin more as a store of value. And when we in America only think about the price compared to the US dollar, think about the price of Bitcoin has been at 19, 20K for the past 3 months, but the yen has weakened compared to Bitcoin, right? But the British pound has weakened compared to Bitcoin. So technically in those other countries, Bitcoin would have been a great asset to be holding.
Yeah, actually, so I was in Argentina. I don't know if I was I came back by the time we spoke last time. But anyway, Argentina, they changed the prices are so volatile with their currency. They change every month. They update all their prices everywhere. Like
Oh no.
a cup of coffee the price changes every month.
Wow.
They wipe it off. Like if you look at their menus and their prices on the billboard, whatever, it's always like you're able to wipe it off and put a new one everywhere.
No
So
way.
yeah, so that's
So
Argentina. So and the rest of the world, I was actually looking to travel because the euro is down, the British pound is down, the yen is down. Actually, the dollar is doing very well compared to everything. So I was like, whoa. Because the last time I was in Europe was in 2010. I was studying abroad, and the dollar it was like $1.4 equals 1 euro. So it was
sheesh.
expensive. It was expensive. And now like the euro or the dollar is a little bit more than the euro. I don't know. I haven't checked. But
Yeah, there's a running joke on in crypto Twitter. So they talk about the flippening, and the flippening is when is Ethereum going to flip Bitcoin? Flip meaning the
uh-huh.
market cap of Ethereum becomes greater than the market cap of Bitcoin, right? And so So everyone's been saying since the euro went under the dollar and the dollar flipped the euro, they're like, yeah, it's called
Oh
football
man.
or it's called soccer now, not football.
Yeah. But so the dollar, so like the Fed, their job is to maintain that. So like when they say all these sentiments trying to like be not not like you're saying like they're trying to avoid certain words or whatever, so like they maintain the power of the dollar. Is that like what their ultimate, goal is? They don't want to just crash the economy. They want to keep it
Yeah,
afloat.
yeah, of course, right? They don't want to just crash the economy, but that's what people like me and really like you, people that are involved in markets, like we would love if they would just crash the economy because basically it's like when you're dating the wrong person. You know when you're dating the wrong person and you're in this relationship and it just keeps going longer and longer and longer and it's like it gets
Yeah,
harder and harder to get out of because like, you keep dating for longer and
yeah,
longer.
yeah,
But then because you keep dating for longer and longer, the breakup becomes worse and worse. You know what I mean? Like the the volatility that's going to be in the actual breakup is going to be way worse than if you just said, hey, like if you notice a month into the relationship, oh, it's not really working out. Like let's try to stay friends or let's get to know each other better before we really move forward in this relationship. Compared to if you stay in a relationship for a year and you were thinking that since the first month, like that the actual breakup is going to be way worse. Like, well, why didn't you just tell me this from the beginning? Like, blah blah blah. Now
yeah, yeah,
you got houses together, you got cars together, you got like all, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
the same situation happening in the markets, right? So the longer that the market doesn't capitulate and you have more and more people like propping up the markets, the worse the breakup is going to be, aka the recession.
Well, also people like us, and I'm so glad to hear before we got on this Zoom, like you were talking to me how prepared you are. So like you're anticipating it, so you're ready to catch it, you know? So like the problem is with like I remember like my family in 2008 was not prepared. Like my mom had her house foreclosed and then which led to a divorce and things like that. So it
Mm-hmm.
just gets ugly. Now, if you're ready, if you understand economics, you can prepare yourself, and that's which is what you're supposed to do. And
Yeah, like I mean,
yeah,
David, I gotta stop you. Like you literally, I got goosebumps right now. I don't think we can see it on the camera, but like, yeah,
I,
man, exactly. Same thing happened with my family in 2007. We were actually renting, but we were renting from somebody that had that mortgage. They didn't ever let us know what happened. We were paying our rent, but they weren't paying their mortgage. All of a sudden, like we got a knock on the door. Yeah, you got to move in 14 days, and we went from having like a okay 3 bedroom townhouse to a 2 bedroom one and a half bathroom apartment with a family of four. That's a tight squeeze, you know what I mean? So like
yeah, it's tight, man.
the family wasn't prepared, right? And so like and just like you said, I feel so confident right now because I've positioned myself not only to be doing like a job that I enjoy, but it's keeping me educated and keeping me so aware to take advantage. I don't want to see any, anybody get hurt, but the reality is that some people are not willing to get themselves prepared and that they will get hurt. So I am very, very ready and very, very prepared for what's to come. I don't know when it's going to come. I'm not sure how long it's going to be here for, but I do know that this is the first time in my life that I've been like, let's do it. Like, here we
Yeah,
go. So
because like if you're ready for it, like you understand economics, you understand all this stuff works. You're positioning yourself to have like savings. You have a plan because like when you say you're averaging dollar cost averaging, like the thesis has not changed for you, and like the way you've talked about Bitcoin has not changed for since the 2 years or whatever I've known you. So like that's if dollar cost averaging is the plan, you got to execute the plan unless something crazy changes. But but that's why you keep track of the overall economy, the overall macro, and all this. So you just keep feeding yourself information. That's the way when you can take advantage. And we've done a lot of case studies and stuff of like 2008, 1999, and like that's how a lot of people were able to take advantage and get great wealth. Those are actually really good opportunities. Like
yeah, I mean, one of the people that you put me on to watching and really I get so much value from it is Valuetainment. And when I was watching that YouTube channel, Patrick Bet David, I believe it's
yeah.
Patrick Bet David was talking about how he was prepared for the 2000. I don't know if it was a 2008 crash or the 2020 crash, but one of
Oh,
those
I
he's
think I think both.
both. Yeah,
2008. Yeah, he started his first company in 2008, and look at him now. He just exited for 150 million, but he started it 2008 exactly.
Exactly. And that's not even like 14 years is not even that long, right? And like so I was watching that video and he was talking about being prepared there and how he was working for somewhere else and then like he stopped working there and he started that insurance company and then it just took off and then in 2020 he said he was so prepared because he had seen it happen once already and he just kind of stood in the adversity the first time. The second time, not only did he stand in the adversity, but he was like well prepared, guns locked and loaded. And it's hard to change like you can't just go get 10,000 dollars tomorrow and have it in your safe ready to buy assets, right? If you don't have the money, you don't have the money, but that does not mean that you can't prepare yourself, right? There's so many ways to prepare yourself from just a mindset perspective and then also like an educational perspective. Like if you didn't know what bonds were, if you didn't know what interest rates were, if you didn't know when the Federal Reserve meet, if you didn't know about the Federal Reserve meetings, like these are all things we talked about during this call that you can take 15 minutes to go Google and research and have a better perspective of what's going on. So I love to help people, but it's very hard when people don't help themselves. So I just hope that people really take something away from that.
Yeah, and yeah, bro, you have like the sickest community. Oh, I started a Friendly Bear Discord, by the way, so I need to get in yours, and then we'll link each other's up like that. But like, yeah,
Yeah,
you
let's
have
go.
your place is great for all this stuff. So yeah, I'll be checking that out. But yeah, Justin, any other last thoughts before we get going? About your butt
No, no,
wood
I guess.
community, maybe you want to talk about it or
Well, I mean, you guys get to see me on the Friendly Bear. Luckily, David still brings me around. I haven't gave too many bad takes, so that's super appreciated. If you want, you can check me out. If you look up Linktree, it's But Would Ya, BUTWOULDYA. It's pretty much But Would Ya everywhere. Justin Robertson. Join the Discord, man. Talk, be a part of the conversation. Try to learn, try to educate yourself. Even if you don't join mine, hit me up on Twitter just so we could chat and say what's up. I bring people onto my channel as well, so you'll be seeing David on there soon. And other than that, just take away from like we were saying, if look out for any dovish talk. If you don't want to read the minutes, that's completely understandable. Look to see if the Fed intervenes with any bonds or any changes like that. And you can kind of get a precursor if you look to other markets first. Like so, you can look to the British pound and you can look to the Japanese yen, see what's happening in those markets to get a precursor of what's happening with the overall macro. But thanks again, David, for having me on.
awesome, man. Well, great having you on as well, and thanks for all that insight, bro. We'll keep in touch.
All right,
See
brother.
ya.
Later.
Bye.